Hey everybody, it's time for another Good Luck High Fives Top 10 Worst Rares video.
Innistrad Crimson Vow is right around the corner, literally a day away.
Yeah.
So we're here to tell you which rares you should be most bummed to open up in your sealed pool.
Yeah, if you're playing any of these cards, hopefully you have a really super excellent, great reason to, and not just because they're a rare.
Exactly, or a mythic.
Or a mythic.
In some cases.
Yeah, sometimes, you know what, I'm gonna be the first to admit, I sometimes have mythic card syndrome and I'm like, sweet mythic,
Yes.
put it in my deck, auto include.
No!
Don't be like me, okay? Be a little bit smarter when you build your sealed deck.
Sometimes they're just bad, or sometimes they just require too much of you to actually be good. And sometimes they're a fine card, but they're a disappointment compared to the other sweet rares that you could be opening up.
Yeah, and these cards, of course, could be good in other formats, specifically constructed formats, or even in draft, where you have a better idea of what kind of deck you're building, other than just being given 6 packs and saying, have a good day.
Yes.
All right, so let's kick off this list here with an enchantment that honestly is really sweet.
It's very cool. 2 white for Hallowed Haunting. It's an enchantment. As long as you control 7 or more enchantments, creatures you control have flying and vigilance. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a white spirit cleric creature token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of spirits you control.
Okay.
You're just not going to have enough enchantments.
You're not going to have enough. Sorry, we're not in Theros. Would this be playable in Theros? I think it totally would be.
Totally would be. But we're not on Theros.
We're
on Innistrad. There are a few cool enchantments, but not nearly enough.
And certainly not in your sealed pool.
No.
Yeah, I'm sad to say this, but
getting what you get.
This card's no good.
Next up is Splendid Reclamation, 3 and a green for a sorcery. Return all land cards from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
Oh boy.
Okay, why?
What are you doing? Like, sure, look, in order for this to be good, and I'm not even saying good, in order for this to do something, you have already milled a bunch of stuff into your graveyard, which, yes, of course that is possible, specifically in green-blue, and then you're casting this for 4 mana, and then you're bringing all this stuff back. Hopefully you have a fatty to cast from your hand.
But they're just lands! All you're doing is putting lands into play. Just draw them and play them like a normal person.
You already have to be so far along in the game for this to even have an effect, because you would have already had to mill yourself a billion times, and you have to have the payoff in your hand ready to go after you cast this next turn.
And what is this mythical payoff that you're talking about?
Like
you're not even.
The hexproof green creature.
Okay.
That's what people are going to argue. No, that's magical
Just play
Christmas
it on
land.
6 like a normal person.
Yeah.
Next up is Dying to Serve.
Great card name. 2 and a black for an enchantment at rare. Whenever you discard 1 or more cards, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. This ability triggers once each turn.
Quote, I used to have hired hands, but I discovered they make better weight staff with the rest of the body attached.
Oh, Olivia.
Yeah. So why are you discarding cards?
I mean, this is like to play with Madness, I suppose, the quote-unquote unnamed Madness cards of the set. But there's not that many of them.
No.
And your zombies coming in tapped.
Again, maybe this is going to be a thing that you can do
with more support
if you draft it.
Sure.
Maybe this is the thing you can do if you draft it, but in sealed, it's just not going to happen for you.
I will note that this does not have decayed. So
yeah, that is nice.
You will be able to block with this.
Yeah.
If you can put something together. But putting something together with this card requires so many steps that I'm honestly getting tired just even thinking of the steps I have to put together in my mind and sealed for this to work.
Yeah. All right, we're at an impasse when it comes to our next one. Maria, give us your choice.
All right, so I chose Hamlet Vanguard. This is 2 and a green for a 1/1 human warrior at rare. Ward 2, Hamlet Vanguard enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it for each other non-token human you control.
Here's my vote. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. 1 and a white for a 2/1 first strike. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. Do you know what? Thalia is obviously incredible. Modern staple for a long time.
For sure.
Love this card. It's a bummer of a rare.
I don't know. I can't. I love Thalia.
And I think that I would prefer the Hamlet Vanguard because I think that in most instances, it's going to be a 3/3.
Hopefully it's a 3/3. My gosh.
At least a 3/3.
If it's not a 3/3, what are you doing?
At least a 3/3. You're trying to tell me that a 3/3 with Ward 2 is worse than this 2/1 first strike?
You know what? I think I might be.
Wow. Wow. It's only because you love Thalia. You have to set aside your love. If I just said rando, 1 and a white for a 2/1 first strike, you would be like, that's not a rare. That's not a rare.
All right, back to agreement here with our next choice. This card is terrible. Change of Fortune, 3 and a red for a sorcery. Discard your hand, then draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Maybe you have the black thing and you've made 1 zombie off of this.
Yeah,
but
you've done it.
People are going to be like, what if I held on to all my lands? Like, what? What are you doing? You wanted at least 6 in play. Min 6, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, at this point, you've, like, drawn more than 6 lands. You're already, like, no. This art is incredible.
It's great,
it's
fantastic
really amazing art. I love it.
But this has been from Sam Gay, by the way, which is really cool.
Yeah.
This card does absolutely nothing for you in sealed.
Okay.
I kept a bad hand so I could cast this card. Congratulations, you lost the game.
Bad hand. Next up is Demonic Bargain.
Speaking of great art.
Yes, also really good.
Also by Sam.
Yeah, 2 and a black for a sorcery. Exile the top 13 cards of your library, then search your library for a card. Put that card into your hand, then shuffle.
Yikes.
Really gorgeous art. You milled 13 cards.
This is a problem
you
in this
exiled
format.
13 cards.
You didn't even mill them, right? You exiled them.
You exiled 13 cards. You're not getting them back from the graveyard. They're not doing anything nice for you.
No.
In the graveyard. Nothing's happening to them. They are gone forever.
You need to keep in mind your deck is 40 cards.
And you started with an opening hand of 7.
Yeah, this is a huge number. And games in this format, you've said they can be grindy. A lot of them come down to milling your opponent out. This is a huge cost.
And right, like in a 60 card deck, you're likely, and where you have 4 copies of your best stuff, you have a likelihood of being able to actually get it.
Yeah.
With this, there's a medium chance that you
just
milled
mill it.
what you wanted. Because you only have 1 copy.
Tutors in Limited are not as good as you think they are, everybody.
And this one is especially.
You're taking mana out, you're taking time out, you're wasting whatever, you're wasting away as your opponent is affecting the board.
All right, next up is another card that is also better than Thalia and yet on this list.
Odric Blood Cursed. Here we go. 1 red, white for a 3/3. Legendary creature, vampire soldier. Sorry you got vamped, Odric.
I know. I'm so sorry, Odric.
When he enters the battlefield, create X blood tokens, where X is the number of abilities from among flying, first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance found among creatures you control.
Count each ability only once.
Okay, so
it's a callback to his card in the last Innistrad set, which is cool.
Lunarch Marshal.
Yeah, but not nearly as good.
Now, this is just not as good. It's not exciting because Odric does not have any of these keywords.
No, he doesn't.
He's just
he
a
lost
3/3
them all
for
when he
3.
got vamped.
Like, hopefully you get a couple blood tokens off of him. And we're not saying this card is unplayable by any means. If you're playing red-white, obviously you'll play a 3/3 for 3.
But it's not going to push you into red-white.
No, certainly not. And if you're drafting, you're not going to be like, slam, windmill, Odric.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to do a little bit of
work.
work.
Maybe do some of the cool, like, blood token stuff.
Yeah. I just wish he had first strike.
Yeah, or something.
So that you'd at least get a blood token, because on so many other cards in the set, a blood token is a guarantee, and those cards aren't even rares.
Next up is Hopeful Initiate. This is 1 white for a 1/2 with training. 2 and a white, remove 2 +1/+1 counters from among creatures you control, destroy target artifact or enchantment. If you're like a little aggro deck, this is gonna be nice.
Yep.
Is it rare worthy? No.
Yeah, and aggro is harder to build in sealed, as I'm sure many of you know. And having a 1-drop in your sealed pool, well, the rest of your deck better darn well be aggressive.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, do not play this card, okay? It will
bummer.
not be able to affect the board as much as you want.
Next up is, I also want to go back and retcon what I said yesterday on the podcast when I named Gross's card. The Gross's card is obviously Patchwork Crawler.
It's awful.
It is disgusting. It has an arm made of hands. I can't.
Is that what it is?
Yes, look at that arm made of hands.
Oh, sick!
It's absolutely awful.
Ugh.
It is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen.
Yikes.
1 and a blue for a 1/2 zombie horror, I'll say. 2 and a blue, exile target creature card from your graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on Patchwork Crawler. Patchwork Crawler has all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with it. Like,
It's not the worst.
it's not the worst, but
I will say that with Disturb, this card gets a little bit worse because you don't want to be exiling your Disturb
Yes.
creatures because you want to be casting them with Disturb.
exactly.
So
And
keep
it's
that in mind.
blue, which is a Disturb color. Like,
yeah. It's like the card is okay, but it's, you know, definitely
Whatever.
not going to be the number one highlight of your deck. Up next, we have Consuming Tide, which is honestly a very strange card.
it really is.
2 blue for a sorcery. Each player chooses a non-land permanent they control. Return all non-land permanents not chosen this way to their owner's hands. Then you draw a card for each opponent who has more cards in their hand than you.
Like, they just get to pick their best thing and keep it on the battlefield.
Yeah, what this card is trying to make you do is make you play the control game so you don't have any creatures or whatever.
Oh, I
and
like
your
it.
opponent plays out 1,000,000 creatures and they're like, haha, and you're like, bounce them all back to your hand and I get to draw a card. Well, that's gonna happen sometimes. Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
They get to still keep
They
their
just
best
get to
creature.
keep their best thing, which is just what I cannot overlook with this, right?
And the fact that you straight up a lot of times might not be drawing a card off of it. You just
might not be.
bounced everything except one thing.
Yeah.
And now also you maybe have
Okay.
one thing or maybe 0 things.
Okay.
It's
What a
just
bummer.
not doing enough. This is not whatever
No.
the card I'm thinking of that costs 6 mana and bounces everything back to everybody's hands.
Cyclonic Rift.
Cyclonic Rift. This is not.
Oh, Cyclonic Rift.
Well, there you go. That's our top 10 list of worst cards that you don't want to open in your sealed pre-release for Crimson Vow.
Keep them far away from you.
Yes, and if you must, turn them into the Wicker Mans that they were always meant to be.